Welcome back to Special Educators Resource Room podcast. This is Jennifer from Positively Learning. I'm so glad you're tuning in. This is episode 4 of our back to school season. A few weeks ago, in episode 188, I encouraged you not to map out every single minute of your schedule before you actually knew your caseload, knew the students in your groups. Maybe you have a week or two under your belt now, so today is the day. We're going to take an honest look at that schedule that you built at the beginning of the school year and see if it's actually working. I want to describe a very specific feeling because I think a lot of you have had it in the last week or two. You build that schedule, looked really clean on paper. Maybe it was something you were provided by your school, like an Excel sheet, Google sheet that you had to fill in. That's how we did it. You had nice, even blocks and rounded numbers. Maybe it was color-coded, and it made complete sense sitting alone on your desktop. And then real students, real transitions, real lunch lines, real anything else happened. And the schedule that we felt pretty good about when the school year started is now something that we feel like we're fighting instead of something that is helping you. Maybe you can relate. And I do want to be very clear. It's not that you aren't good at making schedules or you did a terrible job a couple weeks ago. You just didn't have all the information that you needed. So the mistake wasn't building this imperfect schedule, but it would be a mistake to not adjust it now that you've got real data. There are 3 real numbers that I think are going to make the biggest difference when setting up a schedule, and you haven't had access to them until now. Number 1. How long transitions actually take, including the transitions that nobody plans for. Lineup time, bathroom time, that minute or two that it actually takes to put materials away and get the next thing ready. Dismissal prep, which always takes longer than anyone expects. None of these show up as their own line item on your schedule because nobody builds a line item for something they haven't seen yet. But now, this week, you probably watched it happen in real live action, so you've got those numbers you can use. Number 2, how long independent work actually lasts, which is probably not as long as you hoped. You might have put in 20 minutes, 25 minutes of independent work, and your group is maybe at 10 minutes right now. So we want to write down 10. That's not a failure number. That's this week's real number. And it will grow as the routines that we always talk about here on this podcast settle in. Scheduling around a number we wish it was instead of the one that's actually happening is just a guarantee we're always going to be feeling behind every single day. So number 1 was how long transitions actually take, the realistic number. Number 2, how long independent work actually holds, how long students can last working independently. Number 3, where lunch, related services, and specials, or whatever you call that, actually land against your instructional blocks. So your schedule might have looked nice and evenly spaced when you first did it a couple weeks ago, but it often runs straight into a related service pickup you didn't fully account for, or a rotation that shifts day to day, or it's a lunchtime that moves around more than we expected. Last week, you might have been guessing where these collision points were, but this week, you know exactly where they are. So how do we adjust your schedule that you've had for a couple of weeks without overhauling it? I want to walk through how I'd actually approach this adjustment, because if I just say, oh, now you've got your real numbers, fix your schedule, that can be very overwhelming because I know how long schedules take. We do not want to rebuild the whole day. Let's just choose one block that's fighting you the hardest right now. It might be the independent work that's shorter than planned. It might be a transition that's eating into your time more than expected. We want to adjust that one block using this week's real numbers, and then live with that single change for a couple of days before touching anything else. Because if you try to do it all at once, there's ripple effects, and not in a good way. We don't want those ripple effects affecting all the other blocks of your day. Maybe adjusting this one block means that the rest of them will fall into place. Wouldn't that be nice? This is the same principle that we talked about in episode 188, which was our first episode of Back to School. One gap, one fix. Now we're just applying it to the schedule instead of a single task. You don't need to solve everything at once. We need to find the one thing that's actually broken and fix that one thing now that you have real information. Changing your schedule in week 3 or 4 doesn't mean that you didn't set it up correctly in the first place. You just hadn't met your students yet. So nobody could have predicted the schedule, no matter how experienced they were. You were supposed to build a reasonable starting guess, then actually live it, and then adjust it with the real information once you had some. So if you're sitting there right now looking at your schedule and you've got this red pen and you're ready to cross the whole thing out, please don't beat yourself up. You are doing exactly what this process was designed to look like. Now, if you're listening to this and you were hoping I was going to tell you how to do your entire schedule, maybe you're sitting in summer PD or you haven't gone back to school yet and you know scheduling is one of the toughest parts, because it is, I am sorry to say I don't have a perfect solution for you. If anyone has a solution for schedules, I would love to hear it, because you just have to live it with real students to know how it's all going to work. I do have tips for setting up schedules. They worked for me every year. They're a little non-traditional, but they did work. I shared them way back in episode 92. I'll put a link in the show notes. Your homework for this week, besides listening to episode 92, your homework is to pull out your schedule and circle the one block that's fighting you the most. Adjust that one block using this week's real numbers for how long things actually take. Leave everything else alone for now. Live with that one change for a few days before deciding what else needs to move. Next week is the 1 month mark of our back to school series on this podcast, and it is an important episode. If things are feeling a little messier than you expected right now, this is the episode for you. I will also link the Task Box Club and the Independent Work Club in the show notes if the block that's fighting you is independent work. Tasks built with a clear start, clear work, clear finish tend to hold attention longer because students actually know what to do without you. If that's a trouble spot area for your classroom, you definitely want to check that out. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you next time in the Special Educators Resource Room. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'm dying to ask, what'd you think? Be sure to hit the follow or subscribe buttons so that you never miss an episode. You can find the show notes and links for everything mentioned in this episode at positivelylearningblog.com. See you next week for more special education solutions.